Hi, I'm Irving, and I have no life, just like you. When I saw this game on the shelf, it looked like just another typical spooks and magic game, and I wasn't all that interested. Another member of my family bought it, and one day when I was bored, I popped it into the Xbox 360. For the next several hours, I ignored my family, food, my dog, my need to pee, my butt catching on fire, you name it, I ignored it. I was hooked, and I still am. Let's look at the first game in an outstanding series, F.E.A.R. F.E.A.R has a lot of weirdness like a spooks and magic type game, but in its world there's actual science behind what's happening. Who are you?
I'm Sir Nitpick.
Sir Nitpick?
Sir Reginald Cornelius Cadwallader Nitpick IV.
How did you get in here?
That's not important. What is important is the inaccuracies in your statement. Yes, it's not actual science, you see, since there is no scientific evidence that telepathic potential is in any way genetic, or that it even exists. And of course, the cloning of humans is a questionable process at best. So technically what we have here is a sort of pseudoscience created in the minds of the righteous for the purpose of... Well, that was rude.
That was weird. As I was saying, the basic idea is that this technology company called Armacam has been trying to develop an army of clone soldiers led by a telepathic commander. Making the clones, or replicas as Armacam calls them, is easy. They've already cranked out thousands of those. The problem is the telepathic commanders. They have a way of measuring how much mental ability people have, and they've basically been trying to breed such a commander. The head of this whole project is a guy named Harlan Wade. And as you go along, you learn that he may very well be the most evil person in the history of humanity. When you see just how far he went, you come to believe there's not a punishment horrible enough for this guy. See, he can't just splice some genes and get what he needs. He has to start with somebody who already has strong telepathic abilities and use that person as a source. Whether that person wants to be his source or not really doesn't matter. It isn't long before you desperately want to find this guy and do very nasty things to him. But at the beginning of the game, you have a more pressing concern. Find and take out the telepathic commander Wade already grew, a guy named Paxton Fettle. This guy is just about the creepiest character I've ever seen in a game. I've played this game half a dozen times on all the difficulty levels, and he still gives me the willies. Best your people can figure, Armacam managed to build a leader for their replica army. Only problem is, he's a raging psychopath who's going around eating Armacam employees. Yes, I said eating. You have 4 modes of difficulty to choose from. Easy, moderate, hard, and are you out of your mind? Or something like that. As difficulty goes up, the enemy AI gets smarter and your armor gets less effective. Typical stuff. You encounter the replicas in squads of anywhere from 2 to 5, you have access to a variety of weapons and grenades, and there's plenty of action. But the game doesn't stop there. It's also part puzzle game, because a lot of the time you have to look around in some unobvious places to find out where to go next, or find some item you need, or just find stuff you can pick up that'll help you. As you take damage, you restore your health through first aid kits that you find pretty much all over the place. You can also pick up light body armor that protects you for a time. When you're wearing armor, it usually goes down first and your health goes down a lot slower. But it doesn't stop there. If you explore every little nook and cranny in the game, you can also find health boosters. These little injectors permanently increase your health capacity by 5 points. By the time you're halfway through the game, your health capacity can go up from 100 to 150 or higher. You also have heightened reflexes. This means you can basically put the world into slow motion, allowing you to move from one place to another before the enemies can respond, or put a buttload of fire on them before they really know what's hitting them. Slow-mo only lasts for a few seconds, but just like the health boosters, you can pick up reflex boosters that'll permanently extend how long you can use slow-mo. Unlike the health boosters, these don't actually tell you how much they extend the time you get, but it all helps, believe me. Most of the time you really have to hunt for these boosters because they're hidden away in some ridiculously obscure places. But they're worth looking for, and it's fun to see if you can find them all. Your character isn't given a name. Most of the time your commander, who directs you by radio, calls you buddy or fella. Gee, that's original. But you're part of an elite military unit that specializes in dealing with paranormal threats to national security. The unit is called First Encounter Assault Recon, or F.E.A.R for short. Somebody had way too much fun coming up with that. Almost as much fun as these guys did. Members of the F.E.A.R unit are chosen not only for their military ability, but for their superior reflexes and their sensitivity to paranormal phenomena. You've just joined the team and some of the other members aren't too sure about you. Sure, it's a cliche, but cliches usually exist for a reason. Ever been the new guy on the team? Not fun. The briefing says Fettel has escaped from confinement and started doing bad things. Worse, he's awakened his army and put them to work wiping out everybody at Armacam. Your team's job is to stop him, preferably by killing him. The idea is that if you take him out, his soldiers won't have anybody to direct them, and they'll just shut down. Sounds straightforward enough. The controls are as intuitive as any I've ever seen. The enemies are smart and move like professional soldiers, and the action is varied enough to keep your interest. I have to say, this game really is almost perfect. Of course, no game is totally perfect, so there are a couple of problems. Where most games have levels or chapters, F.E.A.R has intervals. Each interval has 3 or 4 parts to it that move the story along, and each has a name that gives you a hint about what's probably going to happen. Along about interval 3 is when we first meet one of my big annoyances, random new enemies. With no warning, no indications, no clue they even exist, suddenly you have a handful of guys coming at you who are almost invisible and move like freaking hummingbirds or something. These guys apparently have some kind of special suits that help them move at superhuman speed, briefly vanish from sight, jump like the Incredible Hulk, climb walls like Spider-Man, and otherwise rip off various superheroes. I call them RBGs, random blippy guys. The one good thing about the RBGs is they don't use weapons. Basically, they run up and slap you to death. What the hell? Even more goofy, each slap can take down about 10 points of your health. Fortunately, you have slow-mo at your command, and they're vulnerable to bullets, but they sure are pests. Interval 7 brings an even more random new enemy, some kind of airborne robot that shoots lasers. Nobody ever explains what these things are, how they fly, or why they're even there. They just come out of nowhere and start shooting at you. One weapon I found that's effective against them is the Penetrator, a gun that fires these massive depleted uranium rods at high velocity. And even then it takes 8 direct hits with the Penetrator to bring one of these things down. Recently I found a better weapon, the Repeating Cannon. It only takes 2 shots. I call them RFDs, Random Flying Doohickeys. That's when I'm not calling them other things that I probably shouldn't repeat here. I literally had a perfect game going. I was a good 2/3 of the way through Interval 7, playing on moderate difficulty, and hadn't died once. There are only 11 intervals, so my goal was to make it through the whole game without dying. I would have made it except for these damn things. Worse yet, they serve no purpose. They come out of nowhere a couple of times, then vanish from memory. The game would have been a lot better without them. They don't advance the story, they don't really do anything. There's one other random enemy that really doesn't serve a purpose. A couple of times early in the game, and then really intensely toward the end, these ghost things come after you. They sail through the air at you, and if they hit you, they turn to smoke and vanish, but take a chunk of your health with them. Even weirder, they move like ghosts, they look like ghosts, they're semi-transparent like ghosts, and you can get rid of them with bullets. A single well-placed bullet will make one of them turn to smoke and vanish. And really, that's all they accomplish. They make you use up your ammunition. That's why I call these things RAWs, Random Ammo Wasters. Another bit of silliness that makes no sense whatsoever is your flashlight. Like most first-person shooters, you get a light that you can switch on to find your way through dark areas. But for some reason, this one has a timer. You switch it on and the stupid thing lasts all of 15 seconds. This guy is supposed to be a state-of-the-art soldier, trained to deal with stuff that the average person doesn't even know exists, He has top-of-the-line equipment and weaponry, super quick reflexes that make him look like the Flash when he moves, and they give him a light with a battery so crappy it lasts 1/2 of half a minute. What the hell doesn't even begin to cover it? Enough people must have complained about this that by the second game your light lasts indefinitely. So at least they had the good sense to fix it. Why they didn't have the good sense not to do it in the first place is beyond me. But the single biggest annoyance in this game is dust. Yep, common old dust. It doesn't matter what kind of surface you're shooting at, or you're hiding behind while the bad guys are shooting at you, expect a massive cloud of dust after the first 3 or 4 shots. Now we're not talking little puffs that dissipate right away like in Halo. This stuff hangs around for freaking ever. It can take as much as 10 seconds for the dust to settle so you can see your foes again. Okay, well that means they can't see me either, right? Wrong! While you're waiting for the dust to clear so you can get a shot, they're still blasting away at you right through the dust and hitting you with no trouble. All you can do is take cover and wait for the dust to settle. But if they keep firing, the dust keeps kicking up. If you're an aggressive player, expect to spend about a third of your game time sitting around waiting. Overall, the game is worth it, but prepare to be frustrated. I think I know what happened here. Some programmer's brother-in-law figured out how to obscure the screen with random pixels, then went to the programmer and said, "Looky what I did! Can we put it in the game? Can we? Can we? Huh? Can we? And the programmer, just to keep peace in the family, went with it. Thankfully, they got that fixed by the time the second game came around too. So maybe the programmer's sister wound up dumping the brother-in-law or something. I don't care. I'm just glad they eventually got rid of it. The backstory, where Paxton and F.E.A.R came from and all the rest, comes from a couple of sources. One is phone messages. Here and there you find a phone with a blinking red light. Hit the button and you can listen to voice messages. Some tell you stuff, some are like this.
Yeah, this is Chet in accounting. Nobody seems to know what's going on, but we've been hearing a lot of loud noises. Have you guys heard anything over there?
And some are like this.
Hey, it's me. Call me, okay? I'll try your cell phone.
Okay. The other source is computers. There are computers all over the place, but only a few with a certain logo on the screen can be accessed. When you do, your commander tells you what he found on it. It's an interesting way of giving you info, and it forces you to go exploring to find the story, especially the phones. That's another thing that sets this game apart. You want to explore everywhere. You might be in an air duct that goes straight ahead of you, but to the side there's a ladder that looks like it goes nowhere. Climb it and you'll find some goodies up there somewhere. Peek under stairs, look in every corner of every room and closet and desk and cubicle and
Warehouse, farmhouse, henhouse, outhouse, and doghouse.
Unlike BioShock, where some of the stuff you search is empty even though it says it's searchable, F.E.A.R usually makes the search worth the effort. You start out at an Armacam facility where F.E.A.R is supposed to be. You find a dead guy tied to a chair, and your partner tells you to go have a look around while he calls for analysis. You do find F.E.A.R just as he bashes you in the face with a board. Once you're down, he gives you a short lecture about how they all deserve to die. Thank you, Sweeney Todd. As you're staggering back to your team, you get a message that the cops need help battling some of F.E.A.R's replica soldiers at a nearby water treatment plant. At the water treatment plant, you encounter your first replica soldiers. F.E.A.R keeps appearing, but he always does this. You start out with a bunch of cops, but while you're away from them, they get mysteriously incinerated. You heard me. They send you off to find the controls to a gate, and when you get back, there's steaming piles of red goo. What happened? You'll find out. As you keep tracking F.E.A.R through this plant and fight the replicas, you suddenly encounter this little girl who seems to be Carrie on steroids. As you're making your way past the replica soldiers and trying to find F.E.A.R, suddenly they stage a massive pullout. Meanwhile, the cops want your help at Armacam because F.E.A.R and his army are apparently heading that way. So they send a helicopter to get you. And every so often when I start the game, this happens. Tell me what's missing here. Obviously, I'm aiming and shooting something, I just can't see it. Usually, exiting out of the game and starting again will fix it. I really don't know what's going on, and it's so intermittent it isn't really worth worrying about. But it's an interesting curiosity. Your control needs you to find Armacam's central server and reboot it so he can get into it, and on your way you run into this guy, Norton Mapes. He'll pop up again and again, and it's just a rotten shame you can't shoot him.
Hello? Who are you people?
The good guys. Are you all right?
Oh, sure. I'm having a hell of a time.
You said you're an engineer? Can you help me get into the network?
What am I, an IS lackey? Tell you what, you disable the local security system, and I'll see what I can do about the server.
I can disable it remotely once I'm logged in.
No, you can't. It's on a separate network.
Want to know what kind of guy he is?
Norton, it's Ian Hive. Look, Alice Wade stopped by my office this morning. I feel a little awkward saying this, but, well, I really need you to tone down the innuendo around her. It's not that I personally give a rat's ass, but the last thing we need right now is a sexual harassment case drawing unwanted attention to this task force. It's supposed to be a secret after all, okay? Thanks, Norton.
So he's a typical computer nerd who's probably never actually gotten laid in his life, which is why he talks about it to women he knows are out of his league. Anyway, you find the server and reboot it. Mapes promptly vanishes, sadly not for good. So you continue on, still looking for Fettel. Then you come upon this guy.
Finally! Can you do something about these bombs?
All right, another civilian. Den Mother, we've located a hostage. Sounds like he's wired up with explosives. Roger. I'll send somebody to help out. Give him a comm link.
Hello? You guys special forces or something?
That's right. Just sit tight, Mr.
Bishop. Aldous Bishop.
Demo team's on its way. Okay, buddy. There's some elevators near your position. Secure the area and escort the team back to Bishop.
You bring the bomb squad to him, but somebody triggers a fire alarm, so you have to go shut it off to get the elevators working again. The bomb guys escort him to safety while you have to find a much more convoluted way to get to the roof for extraction. You get there just as the helicopter picks up Bishop and the bomb guys with this result.
We're taking fire. Get us the hell out of here. What's happening? Bishop's down. Repeat, Bishop's down. That was ATC security. Are you sure? Oh yeah, I'm sure. Friendly fire? Didn't feel very friendly to me. I think that they were deliberately targeting Bishop. What the fuck is ATC doing? Guess they didn't trust him to keep his mouth shut about something. God, I hope you're wrong.
So you get to find yet another way to extraction. Along the way, you meet our pal Mapes a couple more times, and nobody can seem to figure out what his deal is. But he's probably not your friend, considering this.
See this button? I wonder what this does. Oops. Bye-bye now.
This takes you into a whole new section of the place where you encounter loads of these automated sealing machine gun thingies. You encounter Mapes a few more times. My favorite is this one. Gee, the poor little fella seems to have a problem. Let's see if we can get to him. Looks like he managed to get unstuck. Too bad. Once you're past the bulk of those ceiling turrets, you have to take some kind of freight elevator to keep moving up. Trouble is, the elevator is currently populated by this thing. There's good news and bad news. The good news is, the game provides the weapons needed to deal with it. You can see from this clip that I now have some kind of rocket or grenade launcher with enough punch to destroy this thing if I hit it enough times. The bad news is, this thing is still going to pound the crap out of you even with the rocket launcher and the slow-mo and all the rest. All I can say is, use slow-mo all you can, make sure you get solid hits when you fire, and this thing shoots 3-round bursts, so take that into account, and run like hell between shots. So you blow this thing into its component parts, which may take several tries, then you get on the elevator, push the button, and it takes you up one floor. Yes, you got your butt shot off 6 ways from Sunday so you could move up 10 lousy feet. Thanks a bunch. From there, it's basic, where's the next hidden passageway? Puzzle fair again. Something you've been playing all along. This game, really all the F.E.A.R games, could benefit from a map. But figuring out how to get out of a room with no doors or windows is actually part of the overall gameplay. So hopefully you've gotten used to it by now. Along the way, you occasionally get to use some of those ceiling turrets, and that's a kick. At least until they manage to destroy it. But don't worry, you'll have more chances. That's one of the many things that keeps this game interesting and makes it worth dealing with the dust. The sheer diversity of things you need to, or get to do. If you've been watching the clips closely, you've seen me use at least 5 different kinds of weapons, and some of them are dual-wield, like the machine pistols. You also have several different kinds of grenades. Your basic frag grenade, proximity mines that go off when the enemy gets too close to them, and remote bombs that stick to anything and sit there unnoticed until you push a button to detonate them. It seems like there's always something else on the horizon that you haven't seen or done yet, and it keeps things fresh and holds your interest. That plus the puzzle aspect give it a replay value that's up in the stratosphere. Of course, now you encounter another problem. The replicas and the ATC security guys are fighting each other. Still, like any good FPS game, the two sides agree on one thing. They want to kill you. The next step takes us to what I consider the most incredible weapon I've ever gotten to use in a game. Watch this. Holy cow! Did you catch that? Let's look again. This is the particle beam weapon. It has an unbelievable range, and as you can see, it just fries anything organic that it touches. Your armor protects you from it to a degree, but 2 or 3 hits will cook you just as good as it cooks the bad guys. As we saw earlier, it also works very well on obnoxious British snobs.
Oh, poppycock!
Your control says Fettel seems to have moved into the executive building, so we suspect that he's going after Harlan Wade and his daughter Alice. Who are they?
Listen to this. Marshall Disler, Bill Mooney, and Aldous Bishop are all working on some kind of task force together. The other members are Ian Hives, Alice Wade, Norton Mapes, and Charles Habiger. And Harlan Wade is the one pulling the strings. I guess that means Fettel's working his way up the food chain.
So now you have to find Alice Wade and try to keep her safe, because it's looking more and more like Fettel wants her for his next meal. You do eventually find her in Harlan Wade's office. She's kind of hot, but not too bright.
Hello?
Ms. Wade, we're going to get you out of there, but you're going to have to move quickly.
I need to get to my dad.
Where is he?
Some kind of classified facility. I've never heard of it. There isn't even a street address, just UTM coordinates. The entrances are all hidden, but I have passcodes.
Okay, buddy. Access Wade's laptop and upload the data on that facility. All right, the data's been uploaded. First things first, get to the roof. The helo's on the way.
You mean a helicopter? Can we drive instead? My car's downstairs in the parking garage.
What, are you afraid of flying?
Kind of.
Trust me, you're safer in the air.
Yeah, right. Hurry. Let's go get my dad.
You're not going anywhere but a safe house till this is over.
What?
Don't worry, your father will be joining you as soon as we pick him up.
No way. I'm not going anywhere until I know he's okay.
Because she's so hyper-focused on finding her dad, Alice gets separated from you and is off to do her own thing. Eventually, you do get to your evac helicopter, but without Alice. The next step in the trail leads toward an industrial complex in the middle of the city of Auburn. Intel shows that the place has been shut down for ages, but Armacam bought it from the government back in the 1950s because there's a huge military complex under it. On the way there, your helicopter gets shot down. The pilot is killed, your technical officer Jin is injured, and your other teammate is told to stay with her until a medical team gets there. So, of course, you're going in alone. What else is new? The chopper crashed about a mile from the place, so you have to fight your way there. As I got to the compound, I managed to capture a little glitch that I find just delightful. Somehow this guy's head got merged with that slab of concrete. I've heard of lots of ways to hang yourself, but this is a new one. At the moment, however, you have a more pressing problem. The last time you saw Fettel, he was holding Alice Wade with a gun to her head. Your task of finding him and taking him out just got a lot more difficult. You fight through some ruined buildings, still trying to get to the main place you're supposed to be. On the way from one random building to another, this happens. Where'd that come from? So you have to try again, and you learn real quick that you have to run like hell to a convenient doorway to get away from the truck, like so. So you make your way to a hidden door which leads to an elevator, which leads to the underground facility, which leads to the vault. This is the house that Jack built. That's where you'll find out what's actually going on. Fettel keeps appearing in places where you can't get to him, and he keeps telling you things about yourself that he shouldn't know. Meanwhile, he's looking for someone named Alma. Who's Alma? If this was the real world, you wouldn't want to know. Inside the facility, you meet a bunch of ATC security guys. They're protecting Mapes, who's wiping hard drives. So now we know he's part of the effort to cover the whole thing up. The next computer you access gives you a much better picture of just what Harlan Wade was doing.
More info on Origin. The genetic reference they use for the program is apparently powerful psychic. Makes sense. If you want to telepath a commander, you need a telepath. Anna was a woman. It says here she gave live birth to the prototypes. Seems Wade wasn't convinced the psychic characteristics were genetic. He figured there was a better chance they'd be passed along if the fetus gestated inside the subject. So they put her in a coma, made her carry a genetically engineered baby to term, then induced labor. That's pretty fucking sick.
That's putting it mildly. The path into the room where Mapes was, as naturally as twisty-turny as possible, involves crawling across pipes on the ceiling and all that good stuff. But once in the room, we get our first really good look at Harlan Wade, the architect of this whole disaster.
Norton, do you really think you can get rid of the evidence by shredding documents and wiping hard drives? Genevieve Aristide dug her own grave, and she's going to have to make herself comfortable in it. Don't be a fucking lapdog and jump in after her.
Eventually, we do find out who Alma is.
This is starting to make sense. The name of the woman they used for Origin is Alma. That's who Fettel's looking for. He's going home.
Ah, she's the woman that Harlan Wade forced to give birth to the prototypes, and apparently she's pretty upset about the whole thing. Another computer tells us that Fettel and Alma have apparently teamed up, bent on destroying everybody.
I figured out what a synchronicity event is. There was an incident where they lost control of Fettel. He just suddenly started freaking out. He was only about 10 years old at the time, but I guess he killed a few people. In the investigation, they discovered that there had been a telepathic link between Fettel and Alma, even though she was in a coma. They concluded that she was influencing him. That must have been when they pulled the plug on Origin.
You get down near the entrance to the vault where you see this exchange.
I'm just doing my job.
And I'm doing what has to be done.
It's a little hard to see, but Harlan Wade just shot Norton Mapes and went into the vault, closing the door behind him. And now it's puzzle time, and it's a big one. Mapes lies there gasping, but he tells you that the only way in is to divert power to the door. What the heck does that mean? Well, basically you have to wander all over hell in part of Georgia. It's just an expression, all right? Anyway, you have to wander all over the place and find these control panels that'll activate some sort of power generator thing. It'll take too long to describe. Just remember that this game is part puzzle, and the closer you get to the end, the more complex the puzzles become. This one is the great granddaddy of them. Basically, you have to use these 4 control panels to move these 4 big whatchamajiggers to a different dingfod, then go somewhere else and use some more control panels to make this whirly-bob thing go round and round, and the music comes out there. Wait a minute, that was something else. Oh hell, expect it to take a while and look everywhere. That's the best I can tell you. Of course, there's no way it's going to be as easy as just finding the panels and all that. You've got replicas appearing randomly out of who knows where. But that's good news because it means you're on the right track. Remember Irving's law of video games. If you're not sure where to go, follow the bad guys. Find them, you'll find the right path. So far, it's never failed me. Oh yeah, and the whirly-bob thing is guarded by RFDs, so keep your heavy weapons handy too. When you get back to the vault door, Mapes uses what appear to be his dying breaths to tell you what to do next.
You have to destroy this facility before he lets her out. There are 4 pylons. Damage the reactor cells, and you'll trigger a chain reaction. Blow the whole place to hell, where it belongs. If he lets Alma out, you have to stop him.
I'm losing your signal. We may be out of contact from here on. Be careful of this Wade guy. God only knows what he's capable of.
So we're on to the vault in the final showdown. And suddenly, we have a pistol and a machine gun. All those cool weapons we brought in are gone. How? I don't know. Anyway, the first one we meet is F.E.A.R.
You still don't know, do you? What you are. Why you're here. What's the first thing you remember? What's your given name? Where were you born?
Why is he asking these questions?
You and I were born from the same mother.
Oh, crap. Does he mean...
You must have sensed it. She cannot see in your mind, but perhaps you can see into hers. A life of waking from one nightmare, only to find herself deep in another.
That's right. Your character is his brother, the first prototype. But you have to kill him anyway. He's way too dangerous to leave running around. By the way, you'll notice what's left of Alice Wade next to him. She was scared to fly. Yeah, getting eaten by a psycho is so much safer. I can't help thinking there's a Darwin Award nomination in this for her. As soon as you kill F.E.A.R, the replicas go dormant. That takes care of your main mission, but it looks like Alma is still a problem. Just listen to what Harlan Wade had to say about her.
She was a very disturbed child. Terrible, debilitating nightmares, hallucinations, hysteria. She never had a chance at a normal life. It was Disler who realized she was telepathic. He speculated that she was extremely sensitive to the negative emotions of people around her. We removed her from that chamber only twice. She was 15 when the first prototype was born. She was supposed to be comatose, but she started screaming when we induced labor and didn't stop until the liquid filled her lungs. There are plausible scientific explanations for everything that followed, but I think it was really just a question of hatred. It is the way of men to make monsters, and it is the nature of monsters to destroy their makers.
Another elevator, and we catch up with Harlan Wade at last. Unfortunately for him, the door's locked.
We put her in there 2 days before her 8th birthday.
Error. No life signs detected.
She died 6 days after we pulled the plug.
Release sequence complete.
This is how it ends. Ah!
That's correct. Alma is dead. She died 20 years ago. In the vault, you follow Mapes' directions and destroy the power plant down there, which should destroy the vault. And destroying the vault should finally destroy Alma. This Alma girl was the key to everything. So who was she? As we're making our way back to the surface, she shows us. Pay special attention to the file on the table at the end of this clip.
You will be a god among men. Take her back to the vault.
Yes, her last name was Wade. This son of a bitch did all this to his own daughter. He put her in an induced coma, forced her to give birth twice, took her babies away, then locked her away and pulled the plug, leaving her to starve to death. You have to hope there's a special corner of hell for this guy. Yeah, I know he's fictional, but that's how powerful this game is. I have daughters of my own. As a result, I still want to lock him up in that special corner of hell myself. Your actions in the vault have triggered a huge chain reaction that's going to have disastrous consequences. I won't give away the whole thing, but it's pretty intense. The action, the suspense, and the incredible gameplay continue right up to the final cutscene. And like a good first game, it leaves you with a nice little cliffhanger to show that the story isn't over yet, so stay tuned. A good video game is like a good novel or movie. It depends on your willing suspension of disbelief. For the most part, F.E.A.R accomplishes that. There are a few places, especially when the random enemies show up, where you find yourself screaming, "Oh, come on!" and disbelief takes over for a bit. But if you keep at it, you won't be sorry because the game is worth it. The makers released a couple of add-on games that eventually got rolled into a separate bundle called F.E.A.R Files. Since those are essentially an extension of this game, they have the same basic problems that this one does. Pretty much all of those mistakes were corrected by the time the actual F.E.A.R 2 game came out, but if you're going to move on to F.E.A.R 2, I suggest getting F.E.A.R Files and playing through it first, because F.E.A.R 2 does refer to some stuff that happens there. So you have to play more of this before you move on. Aw, darn. I'm Irving, and I have no life, just like you. But if they keep firing, the dust keeps kipping up.
Kipping?
I don't know why it came out that way.
5.5 minutes in, you screw up.
I know. It keeps kipping up. So.
Even the dog did better than you.
As soon as you kill Fattle, the replicas go down.
Yeah,
I should have.
you're Irish now.
The replicas go down.